So Shirley, I don't know if you are aware of this, but you have a lot of fans amongst the Olaplex team. Everybody was very excited that I was getting to talk to you today.
That is so sweet. Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Olaplex number 1 is my favorite.
Yay!
It's
Well,
hard to find, but it's my favorite.
we're so excited that you're here.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I have to compliment you on your glasses because I'm always looking for new glasses. That is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe if you have to do your readers hair glasses. So yeah, this little frame is from Zillow. So it's
Very
cute.
cute.
Yeah,
Very
thank you.
cute.
I love yours too.
Thank you. Thank you. I got to change them soon. I'm getting bored with them already.
Yeah.
So I am really excited to talk to you because I mean, the amount of work that you're doing,
Yeah.
and particularly in Skid Row, I was looking up some numbers before we came on. And it's interesting because right now in Los Angeles, they're really not counting the homeless population since the pandemic started, at least from what I could see.
Correct. You're correct.
But pre-pandemic, it was 66,000 people were living in LA that were homeless.
LA County. Yes.
Yeah, and 200 are added every day.
Yeah.
I would love to know more about what you do and how you got started in all this.
Well, it's not an exciting story. It's kind of accidental, but I think a lot of people know my story at this point. I lost one of my children many years ago. My firstborn son, he passed away 5 days from his third birthday. He was born on September the 11th and he passed away on September the 6th. And I definitely broke like any mother would do, having such a hard life growing up in Compton already, and then kind of finding a sense of normality with my son's father and now having a baby. And, things are looking up for me. And now, I'm bearing this child. Me and his dad weren't together at the time. He had, a stepfather at the time. And it was just a tumultuous journey. And it was when I was in my 20s and it broke me. And I think I carried that pain. I know I carried that pain my entire life. I have a twin sister, and every September I had just set that aside for my grieving month. Like, this is the month that I will break down. I will be a mess, and everybody around me will get to understand this, and they need to understand it, even if they don't get to. So I just designated that time in my life, and every September I'm calling my sister. I'm breaking down, not just September, but throughout the year too, but September in general.
Right.
And my twin was like, "You can't do this anymore, Shirley." I think I was like 48. And she's like, "Enough, enough. He wouldn't want you to do this. You have done this your entire life." And I knew it, but I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing because I'm so broken. I don't know that I'm doing it intentionally. Like, I really want help, but I don't know what to do. And I think at 48, that was my last cry to the universe. Like, I am so messed up, God. What do you want from me? And then everything just shifted. And then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you want to go to church with me one day?" And I was like, "Sure." And he's like, "Hey, I'm going to make packages for the homeless. You want to come with me?" I'm like, "I ain't got nothing else to do." And then he's like, "You want to come with me to feed the homeless?" And I went with him one day to Skid Row, and I saw this community. And I don't know, it felt like welcome home, Shirley Diane Raines. Like, I was home. I was where I should have always been. I'm like, well, these are the people I've been looking for my whole life, because I thought I was alone in my struggles, in my loss, in my grief, and in my, in my dysfunctional disorders, to deal with things. I thought I was alone because the world is so private, closing curtains and not willing to share, and nobody's vulnerable and nobody's transparent. And when I went to the streets, I'm like, well, hell, these are all my family members. I've been looking for y'all. Where y'all been? It was just
They've been at Skid Row.
child. I mean, and I'm just grateful to God that my journey didn't take me that far. It took me far, but not to the streets of Skid Row. And when I went to feed them, they were more interested in hair and in makeup and all these things. And oddly enough, it wasn't the things that people thought they should have been interested enough in, but I knew why. I got it. I'm like, "Girl, I know exactly why you want to put on eyelashes, because you just don't want to see what you look like in the mirror anymore. This need to escape. You know what I mean? This need
Oh,
to
yeah.
transform as women do. This need to play an adult game of dress up and make believe. Make believe I'm normal. Make believe my baby daddy actually married me. Make believe I had a child in wedlock. Make believe things are going well for me. And I got that, and I knew that. And I think that that's when I realized that what I was looking for would never happen. I will never be okay with my son dying. I will never be okay with the grief that I have in life. But I now have somewhere to share that. I now have a purpose for my pain, which makes my pain bearable. So I'm never going to get out of it, but it's a bearable pain now because of the purpose. So this was an accidental meeting. I don't know if I was sent to save them or if they were sent to save me, or if it was in a mutual thing. But this is definitely why I started and why I'm so passionate about it, because it's not just, it's my whole life at this point. It's my whole life, you know?
It's interesting because, you know, here on Beauty Uncovered, we often talk about how, you know, our hope is to really empower women to, you know, really embrace their beauty and have it show on the outside, and let us give all the different information that you can have in order to do that. But sometimes that beautiful person on the inside doesn't feel so beautiful. And having that makeup, that hair done, the eyelashes, whatever it may be, sometimes you need that to remind you of who you are, right?
You really do. You really need it to remind you of who you are. You know, I'm all about the feeling of nostalgia. You know what I mean? Because I know, especially coming from the hood and being in the streets, like, all I have is memories. I look at the homeless and they have nothing in their hands. Everything is in their head. It's all memories. And you have to pull those memories out. Believe it or not, sometimes when I look in the mirror and I put on makeup, I remind myself of my grandmother with my facial expression. And then that memory comes out, and that memory is so enjoyable. I'm not there in this present time, but I can take myself there. A lot of times when I do their hair, they're like, oh my God, I look just like my mom. I'm like, oh, was she beautiful? Yeah, she was. And then we start talking and this organic connection comes up, and I see the tears well in their eyes. I'm like, yeah, they caught a memory. You know, it's all about getting those memories out of that head that are stuck inside of that suitcase with all the other tumultuous crap that life threw in there, you know, and we have to filter through that and pull it out. And I find that women, there's something about beauty that does that to us. Beauty the way we see it. You know, when we've had our heart broken or you lose a job, I can't think of a good girlfriend that doesn't say, come on, bitch, let's go. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't cuss. Come on, girl.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. Come on, bitch, let's go get our hair done, or let's go get our nails done. And it's like, it's such an external thing. It's so temporary, but it's very impactful. You know, you're going to go home to no job or no man, but just the time you spent with your girlfriend, getting your hair done, getting your eyelashes done, getting your makeup done. It's something about that said, no matter what I go home to, this is an enjoyable moment. And that's what we try to create on the street. No matter if I'm just going to go sit in the tent, I've had an enjoyable moment. And I think those enjoyable moments help us hold on. Because that's all I had in life, were small, enjoyable moments to help me hold on until I can get to the other side.
So when you identified that, like, most of these women were sitting there going, "Ooh, I really would love to have these little creature comforts," I guess you would call it. I don't know what you would call it. What was your plan of attack? Like, did you suddenly go, okay, we got to start gathering up things, or?
No, there's no we. There's no we, because no we helped me get to where we were. You know, it was me and the universe alone, honey. I learned not to depend on people or wait for people a long time ago. People won't see the passion that I have, and they won't want to support it. So I wasn't looking for a we. It was a me thing. I knew that I loved makeup and I'd worked hard. I started from being a single mother on welfare back in my teen years to having 26 years in the medical field. And I could never even afford makeup from the grocery store. But when I started working, one thing I treated myself to was Sephora. Sephora was my thing. I can walk in and I can get makeup. And I had accumulated about 4,000 Sephora points that I was saving for a rainy day. And I cashed them all in when I met the community. I cashed them in. I went to different Sephoras and I got sample mascaras. I got sample eyeliners. I went to the dollar store. I bought eyelashes, and I make little sample packs with nail files, just the smallest little things that they can use. And I started to go through my home and say, okay, you got all this extra hair color. You know, you've gone and got all these sample makeup things that you shoved in a drawer. So I started making care kits for all the women. And I went back out there, you know, the women, the LGBTQ community, whoever wanted it. And I went out there, and eventually they knew me as the woman who would bring hair color, who would bring makeup. And they started calling me the makeup lady. And people would come to me and they'd be like, hey, I heard you got them eyelashes. I'm like, okay, well, one, this is not a drug deal, so you don't have to whisper. Like, we can talk loudly. It's just freaking eyelashes. That's number one, dude.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
Let's restructure the way we talk about this. But yes, I got those eyelashes. Would you like a pair? You know? And so they started calling me the makeup lady, and I just soon started growing, still going with this other organization and nonprofit. Realizing that I was slowing this nonprofit down because I would always want to stop and do hair on their regular routes, and that was taking too much time. So I said, hey, maybe I come out here on a day when you're not here. And that nonprofit went on Sundays. I started going on Saturdays, and a couple of women from that nonprofit, Jackie and I think it was Jackie and gosh, I want to remember that other lady's name, but I can't right now. They came with me, and they're like, hey, we'll help you on, the days we're not helping this other nonprofit. And that's when I got my very first two helpers, not even knowing
Wow.
that this would turn into a whole thing. So that's kind of how it happened. And then, wow, I kept hearing about this area called Skid Row because this was in the back streets of Los Angeles. And nobody wanted to go to Skid Row. They're like, that is the worst place ever. I mean, those people are horrible. I'm like, perfect. That's me. I'll go. I'll go.
So what would you say would make Skid Row? I mean, for anybody that's listening that from any other state, what makes Skid Row so horrible? I mean, what is, I've heard of Skid Row. I've never personally been there, but
I don't think Skid Row is horrible. I think it's very much, I think it has a narrative that's attached to it that is absolutely incorrect. As people of color have had a narrative attached to them, as the
right.
LGBTQ community has had a narrative attached to them. And I think that now that I'm doing this thing, I realize my journey is not so much to take care of my community, but also erase that narrative that's attached to them. So I think the reason people assume Skid Row is so bad is because Skid Row is a 55 block radius. You're correct. Numbers have not been, the homeless have not been counted with pandemic numbers, just pre-pandemic numbers. So back before the pandemic, you could say roughly there were about 6,000 homeless in a 55 block radius. We can up those numbers to at least 8,000, if not more now.
Wow.
There's no data, of course, but this is what it looks like. So within that 55 block radius, you've got about 8,000 people homeless. This is not a residential area. It's a lot of buildings. So it's a perfect place for the homeless to kind of congregate and say, this is where we're going to set up. So I think by appearance sake, when you see that many people wandering the streets, it looks dangerous. And you see them arguing, you see them fighting, you see them drinking, you see them sleeping, you see them using the bathroom, you see them taking a shower. You see everything that's happening on your block, except there's no walls, no windows, no curtains, no doors. There's absolutely nothing happening in Skid Row that's not happening in your block. The only difference is you can't see your next door neighbor getting drunk because he has four walls and a door. You can't see the woman next door to you who's turning that trick because she brought him in through the back door. It looks different because there's nothing to hide their life from the world, but there is nothing different about this community that doesn't happen in your own neighborhood, even in your own household, in your church, in your school. It's nothing different. I think it's just if you take away the windows, if you take away the walls and the doors, what would people think about your neighborhood if they
Mm.
constantly looked at it? So I reiterate, there is nothing horrible about Skid Row. It's just sins are very transparent. And I use sins for lack of a better word, but they're transparent. But it's nothing I haven't seen in my own house, girl. None I haven't seen at church, girl. None I haven't seen it, with friends who I know who are married. I've seen it all. So it's nothing wrong with them. It's nothing different about them. It's just the way it looks. It's a lot of people compacted on the streets, and it looks dangerous. It looks fearful.
So with beauty to the streets. So
Mhm.
you're doing this, what, every single week, once a week, or is this something that you do far more often than that?
No, ma'am. This is my full-time job. I was laid off 2 years ago in the medical field. I decided to work my nonprofit and full-time. So that is what I do. I work my nonprofit full-time. I go out every single Tuesday, gathering 800 burgers from McDonald's on top of hundreds of other snacks. And I take my van out now, which was previously the car, and I feed probably 300, 350 people on the street in front of the mission. Then I work with the Refresh Station, which is a facility in Los Angeles where the homeless can go take a shower and wash their clothes and charge their
Nice.
phone and use the bathroom. Unfortunately, they don't provide food or anything like that. And I've worked with them for years. So I take another 300 burgers over to them so the people who are there can get fed while they're getting their stuff done. So they wait for me every Tuesday. Then I still continue to serve the back streets of Skid Row, the people we talked about at the top of the conversation where I started. I go back there and feed Mama Rose and the couple of hundred people on her block. So I drop burgers off to them. So this is every single Tuesday I do this. And then every single Saturday we work as a team full time to feed 500 people, do their hair and makeup and eyelashes and, braiders and barber services. And we have a caterer that comes out and cooks for 500 people. During the week, I'm working the warehouse, raising donations, opening Amazon boxes, grocery shopping, because I do all the grocery shopping. Like we had a queen move into her house yesterday, so I moved her into her new apartment, her husband and her son. I spend my week just being of service to the community, doing things to bring an awareness to what's going on in the streets and the people out.
So what do you do for you?
This is what I do for me, because I know this looks like work to people. I understand it. And I know I'm stressed out and I know I'm tired. And I know sometimes I'm like, God, I can't do this anymore. But this literally is saving me. This is for me. I can't imagine waking up every day not having a purpose for my pain. The pain is still here. Let's make no mistake about it. I take Prozac. I wake up. I take my 20 milligrams of Prozac. I try to give myself a pep talk. I take my shower. I get out the bed. And no matter how I feel, and sometimes I feel horrible, I realize that there are people out there that, that need someone, Yeah. I try to think of it like this. I look at my son and I go, gosh, he's gone. Then I look at the people on the street and go, gosh, where is your mom? You must have lost your mom. So here we've got a mother with no son and a son with no mother, or a daughter with no mother and a mother with no son. And it's kind of like I'm playing mother to everybody else's child. I don't care if they're 80 or 70 or whatever, they're still my kids to me. But I kind of feel like, well, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do, And then I try to think of the flip side. Maybe this person's mom is with my son, wherever my son is. Maybe this person's got my child and I've got this person's child. We live in alternate universes. Maybe my son went over there and somebody, and I hope. Sorry.
It's okay.
I hope that if my son was in a place where he didn't feel loved, that somebody is over there doing it for me. And I would love to be able to say that I'm doing it for their child on this side. Because honestly, I'm not a fucking angel or a hero, dude. I'm broken. That's all I got to give. I'm literally broken. This is all I have to give. This is it. I don't have no money. I don't have anything. This is all I have to give. And I just hate the fact that people mark me as an angel, because I'm not. I'm a really broken woman trying to do her very best just to be okay. Whatever that looks like.
To be honest with you, I think there's a lot of women that relate to that.
Jesus.
I mean, to be frank, I was that mom that was on welfare and that never knew from day to day whether or not I was going to have a roof over the head of my children and food on the table.
Yeah.
And so I when I heard your story, I related so strongly and I understood.
Yeah.
I think that now my life is so much better. I look at you and I see a template of being able to give back. And that's one of the reasons I think it's so important that you do talk. It's not about making you an angel. It's that you figured some things out.
I did.
And you did. You figured some things out. And I know even when things were really bad, I always tried to do stuff, do hair for maybe women that were trying to get a job or whatever. Just, you do what you can do. But I'm thinking in your journey of everything that you have done, is there anything that you sit there and think, okay, if I was going to do it differently, I would have done this. So this way, maybe there are other women throughout the United States that are looking at you and going, how can I do this? How can I give back? Because again, as mothers, we know how important that all is.
I think in my journey, was there something I would do differently? No, I would say, yeah, but I guess no, because this leads me to where I am. You know what I mean? I have to be honest with you. The journey of being beauty to the streets has not been very challenging. It was just my journey in life in general. Sharing a lot about myself in the public eye has been a little challenging. Social media is not kind. They're cruel. I'm a very, transparent person, very bold, outgoing. I have no filters, I'm just like, in your face, and I really thought I was doing well. until I started reading the comments about me on social media and the hateful things that people are saying about me. And I realized, and I was prepared for this battle. See, that's why life had been so challenging for me. You know, the verbal abuse that I suffer on social media feels like home to me. I'm good with it. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't change anything, not even the difficult times and things like that, because I think that everything I've gone through has been for a reason. I've definitely had to be like, okay, God, I already had a hard life. I asked you for something to do. You gave me something, which is great, but it's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of people looking at me like, I didn't mean like this, God. I meant like make me okay and just give me a man. I didn't mean like, I didn't mean like this, like I'm great, but I still ain't got no man. I'm like, God, we are not on the same page. You know what I mean? But life is.
Then again, we got to sit there and think, careful what we wish for.
Girl, really? I mean, like really. But I would say, my whole thing has been very organic. A lot of people say, what can I do? How can I help my community? I don't know, because really I wasn't looking at the community. I was looking at how can I take my pain and apply it to something. And the universe said, oh, community, Shirley's pain, they work well together. So this, and my whole being a nonprofit is because I had a lawyer follow me, Dana Cisneros Law Group, and she gifted me my nonprofit status for a 50th birthday present. And that's how I became a nonprofit. So this was all ordained, is kind of organic. But I definitely can tell women that I was talking about this morning, and people have a hard time like knowing like what's my purpose, what's my passion, like how did you know it was it, and now that I look back, I can see kind of like what was going on. I could see how I could have been this a long time ago, because the road wasn't familiar. I didn't know what it looked like. As a person who lost someone, I'm good for clinging on to people. So bad relationships, bad friendships, bad jobs, and as much as the universe kept moving these things out my life, I kept chasing them. It is because it was an unfamiliar direction. The road didn't look good. It was a very lonely road. Right before this transition with me, I lost all my friends, I lost a job, and I lost a relationship. I thought I was doing something wrong. I didn't realize the universe was cleaning out my car for new passengers. So if I could do anything differently, I would definitely relax on the ride, even though it looks unfamiliar. If we trust Siri to get us to an unknown destination just by putting in a programming thing into your phone and you just relax and drive, then you got to kind of trust the universe when you say, look, I need my passion, my purpose. What am I here for? It's going to look like unfamiliar roads. Don't pick up passengers along the way. Leave your car empty and go to the destination. I think that's the only thing I would encourage people to do, because right before the shift, it was really not looking good. And now here we are. And I think I was just being prepared for this particular journey.
It's really interesting because I feel as though I've had on other interviews, someone asked me, if you could tell your your younger self something or give them advice, what would it be? And I had to really think about it. And I thought, nothing. Wouldn't want to tell them a damn thing. Yes, I was in a 20-year cycle of all kinds of shenanigans. But in the long run, I had to learn every single one of those lessons in order to get to where I am now, right?
Yeah. I often think about the child thing. Would I've told my younger self not to have a child? That's tough, girl. I'm going to be honest with you right now. If I'm really honest with you, I think I would have, regardless of being beauty to the streets, I would have rather been nothing than to have this pain and be something. I'm going to be honest with you. I think I would have told younger Shirley, don't have kids. I think I would have just skipped this whole thing of, hey, you win in the end, you become beauty to the streets. But yeah, the pain of becoming it was so horrible that I think I'm going to break the odds. I know most people say I wouldn't do anything different. I think I would. I think I would rather not be beauty to the streets and endure this pain and just be plain on normal Shirley. But then that makes me think, well, was plain on normal Shirley not going to endure pain either? Who's to say if my son was still here, would I not be on Prozac? Maybe I would still be on Prozac. Maybe panic disorder was going to hit me at some point in my life and it hit me sooner. I don't know. But I can tell you that's a very painful place. And I know when I look at all that I'm achieving and all that I'm doing, and I feel very selfish because I feel like if the gates of heaven opened up and gave you one wish, would I trade all this in to be with my son? I would. I would. I'm sorry. And that's why I feel like I'm not an angel, because I think an angel would say, nope. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do this work and I'm going to sacrifice my own happiness. I wouldn't do that. I would take my son back and I would ask God to please and kindly find someone else for this assignment.
Mm.
But I'm here, so we make the best of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if there are some of our listeners that really want to help contribute to beauty in the streets and be able to make a difference for you and help, what can they do? Whether it be something locally and in person, or, someone on the other side of the country that wants to be able to help out.
Well, if you want to help Beauty to the Streets, you can always hit up our website, beautytothestreets .org, or shoot us an email or go to any of our social media platforms, Beauty to the Streets. We have Amazon wish lists. We have PayPal, Venmo. You can mail items. If you are a blogger or an influencer and you have an overflow of makeup, what I know the women do, makeup expires, put it in a box, send it out to us. We can pass it out to the community. For people in their other states or other cities and countries who want to do what we do, I'm very careful to reiterate, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I'm fortunate enough that my community beheld hair coloring, eyelashes, fancy, funky looks as beautiful. That's why we meshed. Your community may behold shoes as beautiful. So you have to find out what's beautiful to your community. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So Beauty to the Streets can be any place and anywhere. But I don't think it's necessarily the hair and the makeup aspect. Go out and ask your people what makes you feel beautiful. And if it's shoes, now you're shoes to the homeless. If it's shoes to the streets, if it's socks, now you're socks to the streets. Like, don't use my name, no, it's copyright. But you know what I mean? But I really think that I see a lot of people and I get the emails and I see the messages and how can I do what you're doing? Did your community ask you for this? Because my community specifically asked me for this. That's why I'm doing it. I didn't give them what I'm good at. I gave them what they wanted, and it happened to be something I'm good at. So How do you know your homeless wants hair coloring? How do you know they want makeup? Did you even ask them?
I mean, I can honestly say when I'm from New York, when we were up there, a lot of times it was socks, it was coats. I don't think that was necessarily priority because they were cold in the winter. With legit, so, but yeah, I think that's a good thing. Have that conversation and communicate and find out what it is.
Yeah, I tried to take makeup to Las Vegas where it's like 109 degrees and they didn't want it. And I can get it. The outdoor elements and sweating off makeup. So I was like, okay, that's not going to work out here. But they wanted the waters and, juices. And so now when I go to Vegas, I'm more about taking, juices and water and things to keep the heat off of them versus the makeup. So Beauty to the Streets does serve other places. I do help out Las Vegas homeless community, but I don't do what I do for Skid Row community. I give them what they behold is beautiful, what beautiful may mean to them. And that's something to keep them cool.
That's really interesting because in all honesty, I never really thought about the fact that the needs might be different from place to place.
They absolutely are. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We want to give them what they behold and what they need. And so that's why this, like you said, this is a template. Okay. Don't, people want to sign their name at the bottom. Don't do that, people. This is a template. You've got to go out. We spend so much time. People are like, well, I don't know what my community wants. What do you want? Well, heck, you on these online dating apps, when you go out with a guy, you have conversations, you talk about what you like. Do that with your community. How do most conversations happen? You say, hey, you want to grab a cup of coffee with me or grab a cup of tea and meet up for the first time? So do that. Take some coffee and donuts out to your homeless community. Pass them out and say, hey, guys, I'm just going to leave this here for you. Hey, by the way, you guys, what are some of the needs you have out here? Date your community. Get to know them. I dated my community. I fell in love with my community. We had lots of arguments. We got married despite the fact that we have lots of arguments. I married my community, but I definitely dated them and got to know them, their likes, their dislikes. You know what I mean? That's why I know them. That's why I can talk to them the way I do, because we have a relationship. We are in love. Though most of them don't love me back. It's too bad. We are in love. This is till death do we part, bitches. This is it.
Well, with that being said, this was a really fun conversation, and I'm really thrilled to have had you on here. And thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing what you do. And hopefully our listeners can really reflect on what their community actually needs.
Well, thank you for being interested in it. I appreciate you guys. I love Olaplex. I was so stoked when I saw that email come through. I'm like, the Olaplex. The Olaplex. Anyone who bleaches their hair is the Olaplex fan. Let me just say this. any blogger and YouTuber I'm watching, and if you have hair breakout, it's always Olaplex #1. Like anybody who's anybody knows Olaplex. Okay. I did a whole shoot with Sephora. This is a true story. I had a whole shoot with Sephora. I was chosen to do something, and they took me to their huge store. And I mean, this was just an amazing opportunity. And I walked in, and there's like so much stuff I'd never seen in a regular Sephora. And then there was this Olaplex thing. I said, Olaplex? You have Olaplex? And I'm sitting there going, and they said, we made a gift bag for you. I'm going, please be Olaplex in there. Please be Olaplex in there. Please be. It wasn't. But I want you to know, out of all the things I could have focused in, I saw Olaplex display, and I said, oh, you have them. I'm excited. I love you guys.
Oh, we love you. You have a great holiday.
Thank you.